Hi, welcome back to my channel, Crafting with Cami. Today we are creating a double page layout. I've been loving collage style layouts lately. I've been really liking adding as many photos as possible to one double page layout. And I like how they're all kind of starting in the center and then they go out and they all touch and overlap, and I'm really liking that collage style. So let me show you my photos today. We are documenting a hike that my husband and I went on. I've printed these with a white border, and I've double matted some of them with the light side of mocha, so you can see the light versus the dark. Close to my heart's cardstock is two-sided. One is the true color, which is a little bit darker, and then they have a lighter side. So I went with the light side. I'm wearing a burgundy shirt in the photos. But I thought that the brown kind of brought that out, but not too matchy. So I have a 4x6. I have a 4x4. Some 3x4s. And I might actually bring that one over there. And then I have some 3x3s. And then some goofy pictures of me attempting to climb a tree. All right, so I was thinking something along these lines. Maybe that one up there so that and then the double mats are kind of drawing your eye across. So something like that. And all kind of touching. I want a few overlapping. That one could overlap there. I have an old Stamp of the Month set. This is the You Can Do Anything Stamp of the Month. Super old, retired. But I went ahead and stamped this on some toffee paper. And then I cut it out. So I just stamped across and then I fussy cut it out. And as you can see, it's supposed to look like a reflection. So there's like the water, the mountains in the water. I didn't want to include that reflection since there wasn't any water in my photos. So I'm in South Dakota where it's prairie where I live. It is flat land. But just a little ways away from my hometown, we have Newton Hills. And it's a state park that it is rolling hills. So it's kind of a unique spot for our area. So I'm hoping to make these mountains look more like hills. And I think by covering up those valleys, that will help make it look more like hills and less mountainous. I stamped this little section on some Sundance. And then I just cut out the sun. And I cut out the sun on all the other sections so that I would only have one sun, if that makes sense. So then I thought I could glue that right there. So I will want to bring in more Sundance somewhere in my layout. It was sunset. It was kind of golden hour when we were out, so I thought it kind of tied in having that. And then this is actually the water. So when I cut out that top part, this was the water. And I fussy cut that thinking maybe I could have it come behind these and add an extra layer. I just don't want it to look too much like a mountain range. Like I said, these aren't mountains. So I could go something like that and just add that extra hill in those gaps. Or I could even just add one, or I could kind of offset it and add some different layers. And then I cut the water off of that one too, so I have another one for over here. But I could like fit this one in here. And then I could fit maybe this smaller hill into this section so it's not completely symmetrical all the way across. And then also on this stamp set is this little pine tree. And we have some trees in my photos. Obviously it's almost spring in these photos, so the trees don't have a whole lot of leaves on them. But off in the distance, there are some more pine trees with the pines on. So we could bring that tree in and maybe stamp that in pine ink and that would bring in more greens. Have the Let's Go Anywhere. This one's the card making. So I have a compass. I have that little geo tab. Let's explore together. You are my true north. These arrows. So I actually stamped these arrows in mocha ink on sage. And then I cut that at a 1/2 inch. So this is an 11 by 1/2 inch. And I thought I could bring that up top. It's not going to go all the way across since it is 11 inches, but I could do something else here, or maybe do a frame style layout. So I could bring this, you know, down, and I could have a frame going around, maybe in that pine, since I wanted to bring that pine in with that little pine tree. Then that would bring in more pine. I could do some sage embellishing. So I stamped those in mocha on sage, and I'm thinking my title might be this Let's Explore Together with the arrow. Let's go ahead and clear this out and get out some white daisy to start on. I brought in some white daisy, and then I also brought in some pine paper. So if I use pine as like a border going around, then that would go there and here. Does that leave enough room for my photos? Because I don't really want the photos hanging off the frame. So, can't really remember where I had these. Something like that. Which I think we can make work. So I'm going to cut this 11 by 10 so that I have an inch border going all the way around the 3 sides. I don't need to cut that extra inch off here because I want them to touch in the middle. So 11 by 10 is what I'm cutting the white daisy to. And then I'll get the pine gutted off camera. If you're not familiar with gutting, I like to use a cutter like this, and then I can just cut here and I don't have to cut all the way to the end. So I'll just cut this in probably about 1.25 inches or so, just a little over 1 inch so that I have some room for my adhesive. But then I have all of this center pine to use either further in the project or on another project. So I'll get that gutted off camera. If you want to see that done, I do have that in some of my previous videos. Go check those out. I went ahead and gutted the pine. So this one I gut as normal. I just got out the center, and then it dawned on me I can save even another 1.25 inches here and have a larger piece to use on another layout. So I actually cut that one a little bit differently and went all the way to the edge. So now I have that extra 1.25 inches to use for another project. The white daisy is cut down to that 10 by 11. So that's going to go right about there. And then we might need to cut down our hills. So that could go there. Unless we wanted them to go all the way to the edge, which would also look pretty good. Or maybe on just one side all the way off to the edge. Let's get the white daisy tacked down. How I like to tack the white daisy is, actually, let's go ahead and get this tacked to our Versamat, just so it doesn't move on us. So then this side, we don't have to be too picky about. So I can just run right down the middle since it's going to be butting up. But then on these 3 sides, I don't have a whole lot of room. So I'm actually going to take my Barely Art glue, and I'm just going to run a small little bead of glue and then make sure this is going the right way, and we'll butt it all the way up to the side, and we'll go to the 11, to the 1, and then that should just line up perfect. And then we just kind of want to rub our finger over where that glue was, make sure that it's in place. And that's one of the reasons why I love this Versamat. As of this recording, the Versamat is still available on my website. I'll have it linked below. I know things are flying off the shelf, so I can't guarantee that it'll be there once this video goes live, but at the time of recording, it is still available. And I highly recommend the Versamat. I don't scrapbook without them. All right, got that tacked down to my Versamat there. Now this one, I'm not gonna have any tape running there, but it should hold it enough just doing this bead of glue on the 3 sides. I've never had my layouts come apart, and this glue is very strong. Again, we'll go to the 1, to the 11. I laid my photos back out and brought in those strips, the hills and then the arrow strip as well. So I'm going to start adhering the arrow strips down. I know I want those up top. I'm just going to bring this down a little bit here so I can get this lined up. Might be easier to start on this side. Okay, and then we'll bring this one down a little bit. I do like these hills inside the frame, so we'll go ahead and cut that down right about here. So then this one we'll do inside the border as well. I think I do want to bring in some of these mountains, so I could cut off this one right about here and here and tuck this one behind. I like to use a variation of my tweezers and my spatula, and I can get right up under here and just slide this into place. Okay, I want a hill here. So what size should we do? I think this bigger hill will fit the best. So let's tuck that back and see what that looks like. There. Here I want a little hill. Maybe this jagged one. I'm holding up this strip of hills just to see which size would fit better. I don't want any of the white left between the layers of hills, so I'm just kind of measuring which ones would fit nicely, and then I trim them a little bit wider so that I can tuck the sharp edges under the hills that are in the front layer. I have the Let's Explore Together stamp, and I think I might put that here as just a small little title. And then this one says, "You are my true north," and there's a picture of us with the compass here. So I'm liking how that is coming together. So I think what I'll do is stamp this in pine. We'll just lift this up, tuck a little piece of that foam underneath. That comes with each stamp set. I have my pine ink. I'm grabbing out some scratch paper. I'll just grab a block here for this. Whoa! So glad that didn't land on my picture. There. Yeah, that turned out so good. So make sure our foam is under there. And I think I want it as close to this photo as I can, which is the nice part about these clear blocks. And you want to make sure there's no ink on your block. It may transfer onto your layout, and you don't want that. Make sure we're straight. And I don't want to push too hard that it bleeds, that it pushes out some of those dots on the arrows. So I'm just giving it some light pressure, and I'm giving it plenty of time to soak in. And perfect. Now I'm testing out the You Are My True North. Now this one is a super fine font, so definitely not putting too much pressure on it. Yes, I love that. That T's looking a little wonky to me on the true. There we go. This corner, tuck our foam underneath. Okay. Bringing that pine in. And once again, you don't want any ink on your block. And this one I might actually just center. And I don't want too much pressure. Just giving it plenty of time to soak into that white daisy cardstock. Don't want to rock it. I'm going to lift straight up. And perfect. I cut my compass out. So I did the background piece with the dark side of sage. This piece on the light side of sage. So there's some contrast. And then this on like the centerpiece on the dark side again. So there's my compass. I do want to bring in some more of the Sundance, and then I still think I'll add some pine trees down here. So I have this little geo tab. I'll put that in the Sundance just to bring in a little more Sundance over there. I do want to add a little something. I am going to bring in some sandpaper and just rough up the edges a little bit just to give it a little more dimension. Okay. And then these will go down here. And I actually think I'm going to pop the whole thing up on 3D foam tape. So let's go ahead and piece it together. Put a little bit of liquid glue on this piece, and I'm actually going to use my tweezers. If you really wanted some dimension, you could even pop this up on 3D foam tape. The arrows, or I don't know, the little hands. You could even pop that up, but I don't want too much dimension in my book. So I am going to leave it at that, and then we'll go ahead and get that popped up. But actually, before I pop that up, I think it might be easier to put this down. So we'll go ahead and get that stamped in the Sundance. And then I think this needs something too, maybe something in that Sundance color. I could do an arrow. I could bring another one of these over. Go ahead and do another one of these. And pop this up. And I'm still using up my 3D foam dots, so we'll just keep on going with those. The compass is popped up on 3D foam tape. I'm just bringing in that tiny little pine tree from that stamp set that the hills were on. And I'm just spreading these about. I don't have a rhyme or reason. I'm clustering a few of them, leaving a few of them standing on their own. And just mostly working towards the bottom where it looks like the hills are meeting. And I really like how those trees look on there. I have these wooden arrows. They're just like little chipboards. Some of the arrows are wider and then others are more narrow. So I'm just going to use a variety of both of those. It's pleasing to the eye to add different dimensions, and I don't want all of my arrows to match. I might add another right down here. Bringing in my tags and tabs. And I could bring in some more of that Sundance. I could do a tab here. I could do a tag up top. And kind of bring that cluster around. This is another pack of those die cuts with the wood grain, and there's just a few other different shapes on this one. So I pulled out that heart, and then I have this heart banner that I'm thinking of putting up top there. I die cut this sage tab, and then I did some tags and then another tab here. This one's more rounded, and I did go around the sides of those with my sanding paper. And I felt that this side needed a little more sage since I have sage here. This side needed some. I'm going to tuck this tag up top here, and then I think I'll put this heart overlapping both of these two photos. I still have this arrow, which might look good right about there. Let's go ahead and start adhering these. So I'm just using my Barely Art Precision glue. And I have this little piece of pine cardstock, and I'm just going to add a little bit of glue around that heart on the back, add that pine paper, and now it just ties in even more pine up to that cluster. We'll go ahead and tack that tab down and add this arrow. I have some twine just from my stash, and I think that'll bring in the toffee, this wood grain. I think that'll look nice. So for this technique, I'm going to put the looped side in first. And then bring my strings up into that loop and carefully pull it tight. And then if you had a piercing tool, that would probably work better, but my tweezers are super sharp. So I am actually going to trim these down just a hair. Get that dog hair off. And then I'm just going to stick the end of my tweezers in and unravel this twine. And then I want to do this one as well, but this one I might change up a little bit. I cut 2 pieces of twine and I'm stringing those both through, and that'll make it just a little thicker. And then I'll tie a knot here. I like that. I think it makes it look more like a lanyard. I do want to cut the tails a little shorter and then maybe fray them. The same length, so we'll kind of cut them at different lengths. Yeah. We might need to put just a little bit of glue on it so that it doesn't fly all over in my page protector. So just on the back, I'm going to add some to that knot. And I think right about here. I have an old brown pen. I have no clue where it came from, but that'll tie in better than a black pen. So up top here, I'm just going to write Newton Hills. That's where we were. And then over here, I'm just going to turn this. All right. It was in February. All right, the layout is finished. I went ahead and added some of these little compass points, and I did 2nd generation pine. I don't have sage ink. I would have used sage, but 2nd generation pine actually kind of coordinates with sage pretty good. So I went ahead and added those. I did kind of a triangle here, and then I did a triangle here, and I did this one in pine intentionally to bring in some more of this pine. So I kind of have the pine triangle here, and then the compass points here. And I love all the accents of the Sundance. I think that ties in nicely and kind of brings out some of the yellows in the photos. Love how my hills turned out. I think the trees were a good touch. For still shots of this layout, I do have my Instagram linked in the description box below. This is another layout that we did without any pattern paper. This hasn't been my intention lately, but I haven't had the pattern paper to fit my photos. We're kind of in that awkward stage of spring and winter, so I don't want to bring in my florally spring papers, but I also don't want to use my winter papers that make it look like it's the middle of winter. So I've just been playing with my stamps a lot more, which is really fun. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and it brought you inspiration. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and until next time, live a life worth scrapping. Bye guys.